Hello Agape and friends, Joe here to do a follow-up video, not just to this past week's message, but to the past 3 messages, because for various reasons we haven't been able to do these videos. But it's good to be back and to reflect on, again, the past 3 messages in the series that we're calling Now What? The Holy Spirit from Creation to Now, and why it matters. And especially in these 3 messages, we've been focusing on the now part. What does the Holy Spirit look like in our lives today? And why is it important to us individually and as a church community? Well, 3 weeks ago, Pastor Dave taught us on the baptism of the Holy Spirit. This imagery of being immersed with God's Spirit, being filled in a way that it transforms us and empowers us to be His witnesses to the ends of the earth. And that when the Holy Spirit comes in power, we're going to see different things happen. So then we've moved on to the sign gifts that we see in 1 Corinthians 12. And last week we looked at prophecy and discernment and how both of those things are crucial and work together so well. And then this past week we learned about the gift of tongues and of interpretation. And both of my takeaways are from this past week's message, but they really apply to all 3 weeks. The first takeaway that I had was from the beginning of the message where Pastor Dave reminded us that God's ways aren't our ways. God's thoughts aren't our thoughts. I'm a very logical person. I like to think through things and try to use reason to figure out viewpoints and beliefs and all of that. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think God created us to be thinkers and to use our brains in that way. But the trap that goes along with that sometimes is relying on logic and reason to this end that we feel like we can have God figured out. And it's a good reminder that God, in His perfect logic and reason, does things and empowers us to do things that sometimes don't necessarily fit with human logic or reason, or they're hard to figure out. So especially when it comes to something like the baptism of the Holy Spirit and the way that the Holy Spirit sometimes works in us and through us, it can be a little challenging to figure out how it works or that. And so for me, even personally, it was a good reminder. God works in ways that I don't always fully understand, and I want to be okay with that. The Apostle Paul points to the cross as a perfect example of this. He says it's foolishness to those who don't believe. Why would Jesus do that? Why was that God's idea and plan? It doesn't make sense to us in our human understanding, but we want to trust God and His ways above our own understanding. That was the first takeaway. The second takeaway is when we talk about especially things like prophecy or tongues, sometimes people might get a little off track and have the focus just be on that experience and keeping that experience just to themselves. And a great reminder that Pastor Dave gave us is that the goal isn't just for the experience or the Holy Spirit to move in a certain way of itself, but it always has a purpose to it. It has a direction to it, whether that's encouraging the body of believers that we have here, or just as important, a lot of times these gifts come forward as a way to share the gospel with those around us, as a way to demonstrate God's power and authority over His creation. So a good reminder that our goal in exploring these sign gifts and even practicing them isn't just so that we can have a great experience, even though sometimes it might be a great experience. No, it's to empower us and for us to be directing that towards sharing the good news of Jesus to those around us. That was my 2 takeaways from the past 3 weeks. I hope you guys have been enjoying this series. I know I have. It's been really, really good, informative, and transformative. So look forward to seeing you next week as we continue on.